What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Daniel Cormier shoots down Jon Jones' case for Fighter of the Year award. With the annual ESPY Awards rapidly approaching on July 12th, the nominations for MMA Fighter of the Year have been released. Heavyweight champion Jon Jones, lightweight champion Islam Makhachev, welterweight champion Leon Edwards, and former two-division champion Amanda Nunes all received nominations. However, fans have been quick to question why Jones was included, given that he fought just once in 2023. During a recent episode of DC and RC, Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier weighed in on the situation, explaining why he believes Jones belongs in the category for Comeback of the Year, given his win over Ciryl Gane after 3 years away, rather than in the category for Fighter of the Year.
But then you look at Amanda, losing her belt to Juliana and winning it back. And then Leon Edwards doing what he did. Jon Jones is in there because Jon Jones is the biggest star, right? He's the biggest star that's holding a championship right now outside of Israel Adesanya. So that's why he's in there. Then,
of course, after Jones' big win over Ciryl Gane, it sounded as though he would be back in action sooner rather than later for a fight with Stipe Miocic. However, since the fight, nothing has come to fruition. With Jones seemingly planning to retire after one more fight in New York, only time will tell whether the heavyweight champion defends his title once more before the end of the year. Dricus Du Plessis reacts to Israel Adesanya wanting him to win. In addition to the fact that the middleweight champion, Israel Adesanya, has already defeated Robert Whittaker twice, the champion has another reason to be cheering on Dricus Du Plessis in his UFC 290 title eliminator against the Reaper. Following Adesanya's UFC 287 win over Alex Pereira, he stated that he hoped Dricus Du Plessis would continue to win so that he could drag the streaking contender's carcass across South Africa. With Du Plessis now just one win away from a crack at the belt, Adesanya has remained hopeful that the pair meet inside the octagon. The way Du Plessis sees things, the champion better be careful what he wishes for. During a recent interview with the Schmo, he spoke about the situation.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for. At the end of the day, I don't care if he hopes, if he wants it. I'll win on my terms, and now it's imminent. Like I said, it's imminent. Whether when I fight for the belt, and I'm going to fight Adesanya. He says he's hoping that I win. That's good. I don't need hope.
With UFC 290 less than 2 weeks away and the stakes at an all-time high, how do you see things playing out between Robert Whittaker and Dricus Du Plessis? Drop your predictions in the comment section below. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love, and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Teddy Atlas piles the praise on Ilia Topuria. Famed boxing trainer and analyst Teddy Atlas had some high praise for streaking contender Ilia Topuria after watching the young featherweight put on an absolute masterclass against Josh Emmett in the main event of UFC Fight Night Jacksonville. For Topuria, the win marked his 14th straight as a professional, including 6 straight wins inside the octagon. In addition to adding to his impressive win streak, the dominant decision win over Emmett saw Topuria's rank in the featherweight division rise to a career high of 5. During a recent episode of The Fight, Atlas referred to the lopsided Cannonier vs. Vettori fight from the week before, while praising Topuria's striking and making a flattering comparison to Alexander Volkanovski.
Topuria, he reminds me with his striking a little of Volkanovski, where he's so solid technically, he's so buttoned up with his approach, his overall approach, that it just reminded me of him a little bit.
With Topuria now likely sitting just one win away from a title fight, and Volkanovski looking to unify the featherweight title by defeating Yair Rodriguez at UFC 290, we could very well wind up seeing the two men compete against one another sometime in the future if the stars align. Since the win over Emmett, the MMA community seems to be split regarding what they think the future holds for Topuria. While many want to see him get a crack at the winner of the Volkanovski vs. Rodriguez fight, others want him to fight Max Holloway to earn his #1 contender spot after the former champion takes on the Korean Zombie in Singapore. What do you think the future holds for the streaking contender? Sound off in the comments below. Michael Bisping slams Paulie Malignaggi. It sounds as though the bitter feud between former boxing champion Paulie Malignaggi and former UFC champ Conor McGregor is still alive and well. Recently, during an interview, Malignaggi predicted that in an MMA fight, Jake Paul would be able to give the Irish superstar some problems in the octagon thanks to his high school wrestling experience. In addition, Malignaggi alleged that McGregor gets nervous and anxious when he fights, citing it as the reason that the Irish superstar's gas tank has been questioned by fans over the years. During a recent episode of his Believe You Me podcast, Hall of Famer Michael Bisping weighed in on Malignaggi's comments, calling the former WBA champ an absolute fool.
You know, he's just an absolute goddamn fool. Anyone to think, listen, as I said, you can have some opinions on McGregor, but certainly at the height of his fame, if you're talking about Conor McGregor at his peak, you can't say that his anxiety levels were high. That's why he gets tired.
No, look at the moments he's been in.
Look at the moments he's been in. And listen, I'm not his biggest fanboy, but I always was impressed by how calm he was always able to stay.
So far, there's been no word from McGregor on Malignaggi's recent hot take. However, given the bad blood between the two, it wouldn't be surprising to see McGregor send shots at his longtime rival. Ariel Helwani opens up on reports of PFL buying Bellator. Reports have continued to surface regarding the possibility of the PFL buying Bellator MMA, with the PFL beginning to build a deep stable of fighters, including Francis Ngannou, Shane Burgos, and Ante Delia, just to name a few. Many have predicted that the promotion could cut into the UFC's lead in the industry by acquiring Bellator MMA. Although there's been little news regarding this situation as of late, Ariel Helwani was recently asked about the matter during a recent Q&A segment of his show. As he explained, with 1 year left on PFL's broadcast deal with ESPN, a move to acquire Bellator MMA could put the promotion in a strong position heading into negotiations.
They could re-sign. I just mean like the current contract ends after this season. I can assure you part of the appeal to acquiring a Bellator is, hey, we're at the end of the road on our current rights deal, and that's where you get the boatload of your money. If we gain all these fighters and this brand and all this stuff, that will hopefully only make our next deal that much more lucrative.
As Helwani went on to explain, the PFL may struggle to cement its place as a true competitor to the UFC while under the ESPN umbrella, given the perception as the UFC's little brother on the network, and as a result, may look to go to another network like TNT or Fox Sports. With the PFL playoffs set to begin on August 4th, only time will tell what the future has in store for the promotion. Dana White and UFC reveal shocking news. Fighter pay has continued to be a hot topic in the world of MMA, with fighters like Nate Diaz and Francis Ngannou parting ways with the UFC in search of greener pastures, and insiders like Ariel Helwani calling for the UFC to do away with their show money and win money payout structure. The subject has continued to surface. During a recent episode of Bloody Elbows' Hey, Not the Face podcast, John S. Nash spoke about an earnings call that took place last year, where it was revealed that, based on his math, using the figures provided, the UFC paid $178.8 million to fighters in 2021, which comes out to about 17.5% of revenue. Despite the relatively low percentage compared to other professional sports, the UFC actually wound up paying fighters an even smaller share of revenue in the year following the call based on Nash's math.
Interesting enough, they note in this filing that they were able to cut fighter expenses $32.8 million from 2022 to 2021. Right? That means in 2022, if my calculation was right about 2021, they paid $146 million to fighters, total pay to fighters, out of $1,140 million, 13% of the revenue.
On the earnings call, Endeavor CFO stated that the company believes their revenue share is in line with payouts for individual sports, citing tennis's ATP Tour as an example. Interestingly enough, however, last June, the ATP Tour announced that they would split profits 50-50 between players and the tournaments, on top of a boost to total prize money for top-tier tournaments. As many have pointed out, the UFC has seen focus on signing young talent through Dana White's Contender Series over the last few years, while at the same time getting rid of veteran fighters like Ilir Latifi. In addition to signing new fighters to much cheaper contracts, the promotion is also signing fighters to more oppressive contracts. Fighters who sign with the UFC now waive their right to ever join a class action lawsuit against the promotion, as well as the right to take the promotion to court, instead agreeing to go to arbitration over disagreements. With plenty of talk regarding fighter pay and the way the UFC treats its athletes, do you think we'll ever see widespread reform? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below.